That's not good. What do you think of this? Intact mule barn. That doorway was added most likely once they closed the mule barn and went with the electric mine motors. Intact water troughs. Nothing like mule stables. Truly old school. This mule barn is actually pretty interesting too, because you have the stables here. These are all the stables. You have these mine rails acting as a support, and some of them are actually bending, so they are taking weight. But right here you have the coal vein. This looks like some sort of mule passage that goes up. It's collapsed. The coal's here. So again, coal's here. And when they closed the mule barn again and went with the electric mine motors instead of the mules hauling the coal, they decided to pull the coal out of the mule barn. And that's what they did here. They started robbing the coal pillar supports. So the coal pitches upward, goes at an angle. It's coming up, it's pitching upward. You can see that it's there and going up the mountain. So literally all of the floor of the mule barn is a solid slab of anthracite coal. This is nice and high. So this is where the mules were led through the mine most likely. That's so intact. And the water and hay troughs are intact. Very impressive. Seen better days though. Old broken milk bottle sitting atop the stable itself. This concrete will probably last 1,000 years. Looks like it was just poured yesterday. Literally looks like it was poured yesterday. Incredible. And look at the muck boots that are becoming two-dimensional. And the miners themselves. So right here's the vein of anthracite, pitches down. It's the actual floor of the mule barn, and they were taking it out. And the mine was getting ready to close. Look at that. Remarkable condition of that concrete. They had their own veterinarians down here. So we're gonna walk where they would have walked. This is the passage. People that tended the mules. And there's where they pull that coal out. You can see literally how that's the floor of the mule stable itself. A big trough. Full of water like back in the day. That's cool. And because they pull these coal supports out, essentially the floor, the mule stables are subsiding. That's why they're cracking. You can see that metal piece there. It's for tying down the mules so they didn't wander off. That would be good having a mule walk around a mine by itself. Another tie down point for the mules. Yeah, that cracking's bad. Whoa. That's gonna go one day. I'm at the last mule stable here. And this would have been their view. This would have been a solid slab of coal right in front of them. And the mules were here. A slight path in front of it for the workers to walk in front of. So when they pulled the coal supports out, there's some cave-in on the roof, like an avalanche. Wow, that wall section's really disconnecting. Another muck boot. Don't want to take a fall down that. Just all muck boots. Wow. 16 spots for mules. There's 16 spaces. You can see a little heart there that was drawn with a carbide miner's lamp, miner's graffiti. Here's my flame lamp. What a magnificent little mule barn. Some of these held many, many mules, like 50 plus. I've seen from photographs. This is a pretty small one. So nothing was sacred in the mine. This would have been a mule barn reserve, meaning they didn't mine coal for a perimeter all around it in order to keep up the structural integrity. And probably the day or the week that they stopped using the mules, they went after the coal. Or maybe they waited until the mine was getting ready to close. I'll have to check the maps. I'll have dates. That's cool how they use the mine rail to frame out the stable and also to act as a reinforcement to keep the roof up. Where some poor animal stood on its time off for its whole life, most likely, it's now for eternity just a sloppy mess of rotting timbers and muck boots. There's just parts to all types of mining equipment down here. Lampshades, electric mine motor parts, tools, you name it. Just became a dumping ground once the mules were gone. Neat mechanics locker, I assume, full of gears and everything else, plumbing supplies for the electric mine motors, mine pumps, probably air compressor, pipe parts and everything. My friend noticed this. He said, look, the locker became load bearing. Wow. So I guess the roof is squeezing a little bit. Yeah, those have to be for the electric mine locomotives. So that was like the modern day mule. Called the electric mule, actually. So it only seems fitting that those parts, that looks like a water pump or something, would end up in the old actual mule barn. That looks like a electric mine locomotive headlight protector. so the bulb didn't smash. Neat. Very neat. An old miner's helmet. I just touched it and it was breaking. It's so brittle. Another miner's hard hat, safety hat. Resting in mule stables, and take a look at that. There's the mount for the carbide lamp. Or even the old Edison electric lamps. That's very interesting. That's where they mounted the light. Piece of a mule bridle. I thought it was a belt, but it's something with the mules. I just flipped that over. That's not a human belt. Some sort of brush. I wonder if that was a comb or a brush for the mules. Interesting. Right in one of the troughs. Feel bad for the animals. Yes, they were treated pretty good, sometimes better than the miners, but often they were confined to these stables for the duration of their life. That's load bearing. Look at how that's blowing out. And something I've never really heard anyone talk about too is the fact that these mules most likely got anthracite also, just like the coal miners. And what that is, it's black lung. So it's just microscopic anthracite coal dust that was everywhere. I'm probably breathing it as I speak. And it gets in your lungs. It makes all these lacerations in your lungs and traps itself in your lung tissue. And you develop miner's asthma. It's like an emphysema. And it eventually kills you. Yes, the breaker boys who worked on the surface also got anthracite, black lung, miner's asthma, and died from it, even though they didn't step foot underground. Little boys that came down here to work got black lung. Miners, laborers, everyone got it, unfortunately. Also, an interesting side note, before they used mules in the mines, they tried oxen. So like in the 1850s, 1860s, they would bring oxen into the mines to pull coal cars. Neat mineralization forming. Calcium or something. Look at that. It's so cool. That's a backfilled entrance that went out. That's actually dirt from the outside that they most likely bulldozed into this former mine portal. This really looks like something out of a horror movie. Looks like a hand. Use my foot for scale. I don't want to break it. Something with this acid mine drainage that caused it. The mules' heads would be hanging out and over the troughs. That's something else. I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity to see what my ancestors went through underground. This is for you guys. We'll remember you. I'll dedicate this mule stable clip to Mike Marciniak, my great-grandfather who worked 50 years, 1902 till 1952, underground at the Dorrance Colliery, Lehigh Valley Coal Company. And he would have seen, undoubtedly, mule barns like this in the Dorrance back in the turn of the last century. So this is for you, great-grandpa Mike. Try to keep your memory alive, buddy. And this was most likely a mule way or something because it's so big in height and it's pretty wide. Right off of the mule stable too. This is a cool little working going up the mountain. This is pitching up. Coal vans up there. See gobbing. Sounds like a rainforest down here. One last look at the mule stables. So right outside the mule barn itself, there's a lot of old school electric mine locomotive parts. And I'm going to point to these in a second here. Here's one, and here's the other. These mounted onto the electric mine locomotive itself, and attached to that there would be a pole going up, and that would make connection with the overhead trolley wire itself, and thus bring the electrical current into the mine locomotive, thus powering the electric motors within the locomotive. There's the outside. You can see the sunlight.